The coronavirus pandemic has had a major impact on all of us, but one segment of the society has likely been impacted more than most, and that is, of course, the homeless population and the working poor. Our guest today is Ken Kissick, co-founder of Streets Alive Mission here in Lethbridge. Ken, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Ken, I would imagine that this has to be an extra tough time for people on the streets. I'm guessing many have pre-existing medical conditions and limited access to medical care and whatnot.
It's kind of a two-edged sword,
Okay.
because yes, they're a more vulnerable population. But the other side to that is, for them, coronavirus is not something that they're worried about, because Hep C, HIV, liver, kidney, there's a lot of other things that will affect them more greatly than the possibility of coronavirus.
That makes sense.
But it does limit the services now that they can access. So there's a myriad of things that make it difficult for us to manage some of the population, the addicted population, that wants to stop, trying to get them on supports, trying to get them to treatment or detox centers. All of that is really difficult.
I would imagine, and now, of course, we're all doing the social distancing thing, right? How is this population handling that? Are they doing it, or are they not so much?
Well, the street population is a family unto itself. They have one another's backs. And so to try and get them to self-distance is a really keen problem, because while they understand what's trying to go on, they just feel like family. Now, we're not self-distancing as families because we're in a group, right? And so are they. And so we try and get them to, do that stuff. When they come into Streets Alive, we've set up so that, while they're waiting, they're 6 feet apart. They have to come in. There's a hand washing station. And they're pretty good at following those instructions. But then they'll go back outside and all stand together, a group on the street. So.
Yeah, exactly. But the education component is there. You're teaching them, and
and they're for the most part, they're being compliant. If the police or the watch or somebody asks them to they do spread out, and then they'll come back together.
That's how it is, right?
That's how it is.
That's how they live their lives. Yeah. Okay, so now with the pandemic, the thrift stores have shut down, of course, but the need is still there. And I understand that you're still doing what needs to be done, and that you're still accepting donations in a temporary warehouse. Is that right?
What happened was, we were invited by the city as part of their COVID response group to lead what they call the clothing, hygiene, and supplies pod. And in conversation with the Salvation Army, MCC, the Mission Thrift Store, and the city itself, we realized people are at home cleaning out their closets, accumulating stuff, and there was a concern if we left this till after COVID, there would be this mass onslaught. So what we did is Bible for Missions Foundation gave us the old Mission Thrift Store building to use for free. And what we've done is we've set up a warehouse in there for people to bring all kinds of items that they would normally take to the thrift stores. Clothing, household goods, furniture. The only thing we're not taking is beds. And what we're doing is we're pulling out of it the stuff that we need, and the agencies need, and the agencies like the Rapid Rehousing Group, the COPE team, the different teams that are out there, can come in and get supplies from the warehouse, okay? We're still operating our pin bank at the mission, and we feed it out of the warehouse. Then when this is all done, the agencies, My City Care and that group, will come back in, take everything that we've really sorted and boxed and everything else, and it'll be done. And they'll be able to kind of take it as they can feed it through their volunteer system.
And where specifically can people take it?
So that is located at 110th Street. Okay. It is right across from the For Fit place, right?
Okay,
the old London Drugs.
Yep, Fit for Less, right
Fit
there.
for Us,
Yep,
it's right there.
yeah.
You can't miss it. It's the west door.
Yeah.
We're open from 9:30 till noon and 1 to 4:30, Monday to Friday. So bring your stuff down.
Okay, no, that's great. Are there any specific donations that you're in need of?
Well, we're always in need of jeans, hoodies, underwear, okay, and feminine protection in terms of the hygiene, okay? I mean, we don't want to become a place that collects your garbage, but, you know, all your stuff that you would normally take into the thrift stores, bring it on down. We're collecting it, and it'll get redistributed.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
It's wonderful. And one of the things about it is, initially our you know, we're trying to manage it, but it's really picking up steam. With the success comes a few problems. We've had to reach out to get some garbage containers in collection because some stuff does need to go. Everything is self-distanced. The stuff that comes in today will be held for 2 more days, and then we put it in. So we're following all the practices that we need to follow in terms of the COVID response.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's excellent. Now, this kind of leads into my next question. How has COVID-19 changed the way that your outreach team is doing its work?
Well, now the outreach team, we've had to up the game because we're trying to fill gaps. One of the teams was the diversion outreach team, which had been asked to do medical transport. So they can no longer touch an individual. The individual has to be able to get in and out of their vehicle. So for those that kind of get intoxicated and often need help, there's no transport for them to intox. So our outreach team is filling that gap for them. We've had to expand our hours from 9 to 9, Monday to Friday. We're on call 9 to 9 on Saturdays for that. Plus, we're out there as an extra set of eyes, the encampments and those kinds of places. And the outreach team is another one that the city has asked us to lead. So we're working with Watch, the Lethbridge Police Service, the Arches Cope, the DOT team, Quest, and some of those to help them make sure that the street population is staying healthy, and if we see somebody that isn't, try and get them in and get them tested.
Okay, so what does the outreach team normally do then? Because you mentioned sometimes there's physical contact and they can't do that now. So
No,
normally,
our outreach team has always been able to do that.
Okay.
It's the diversion outreach team that couldn't. So we're filling that gap, right?
Okay.
So the other thing that because we've moved to bagged lunches for our evening feeding program,
yeah.
we're also providing, we have a supply of bagged lunches, water, those kinds of things. The team is mobile, going around just checking on people.
So, I mean, obviously that gets back to the basics of what you guys do. You're helping to food, clothe, shelter, and encourage these people on the street and helping them beat addictions as well, because that still needs to be done, right?
That's right.
Okay.
The struggle we're having actually in the addicted population right now is because of the border closure, there's less opioids, which is good on one hand. But the meth use has gone up, and it's actually homemade, self-cooked. So there's bad batches, and so we're really struggling with that population because they're getting quite meth is speed, and so they're very agitated. They're very we're struggling to maintain help for them. Okay, and so that's a bit of a struggle. But the other is, it's become dangerous, and so some of them want to get off the street. And what that's resulted in is because, first of all, detox and treatment were completely shut down, and now they're opened up, but it's a lot of factors in there. Our transitional housing program, we're actually bringing some of them straight in off the street and doing detox and treatment, which we're not totally set up for, but for somebody that wants to get out, we want to get them out.
It sounds like a challenge.
It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah. But there must be some success stories as well, people who are wanting to get off of the addiction or have already. Can you share any success stories?
Yeah, there's lots of success stories. Right now we have 15 men in our recovery program, okay? We have 11 of those 15 men are part of the warehouse. So they've kind of stopped their programming to help us in the warehouse, and they're loving it. They're stepping up to the plate. We're trying to get them in, but we've had a number of guys hit 60 and 90 days in this. Our women's program, we have 2 girls that we actually took in straight off the street, and they're just coming up on 30 days clean. So it's working. They're motivated. And we are seeing that, and we are working with others to try and get the people into the treatment when we can. But transportation is an issue. So there's lots of hurdles we're trying to overcome, and it's tough on that population.
Oh, it sounds like it. Are there more people using your food program now, or is it about the same as it was before?
The food program, it is a little different for us right now in that Alpha House out of Calgary was working on the Intox, the 30-bed Intox facility. But when COVID struck, they actually took over the shelter as well, and they're running two different sites. We call them Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. The Alpha 2 is in Fritzick. But we've been providing food for them, bagged lunches, for the clientele that's in there, because when they're in the Intox facility, if they leave, they have to stay out for an hour, and then they might lose their place. So this is just a way for us to get evening food into them. We're providing probably 80 bag lunches a day to them. And then there's another 40 bag lunches that we have out on the street.
Okay.
So the number of bagged lunches we're feeding is up, or evening meals. But we've had great response in that. The Soup Kitchen's about to start a new evening meal program. And so we'll have to just monitor that because we don't want to duplicate. But it's given us a better opportunity to reach out. We went to bag lunches to help with self-distancing and group gathering.
And you go out and distribute them?
We go out and distribute them, absolutely.
That's amazing. That's a
It
great way to
also
get
allows
into
us to put eyes on them in an environment that's theirs. The street is theirs, right? So they're much more open to talk with us and do those kinds of things.
That's awesome. Now, how are you doing for volunteers? Are your numbers reducing there? Or?
Well, so volunteers is a bit erratic, and as you can understand, some people want to choose to stay and self-isolate. The seniors, which form a large portion of the volunteers for all of these groups, they need to be kept safe. And so there's a change in that. But then we've had others step up. Yesterday we did an orientation for 10 volunteers that want to come and help at the warehouse where we have a need. Some of our volunteers, they're just steady. We have a couple that for the last 9 years drives in from Hayes every Friday, and they just keep coming. Now, Harvey's in the field, so it's just Kathy, but they're committed. We have some seniors who have made sandwiches for like 10 years, and they just come in and do their thing. So it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah. So let's talk about now with the needs actually increasing because of coronavirus, you've actually set up an emergency response fund, right? So how can viewers get involved in supporting your work with this?
So the first thing anybody can do is pray for us. Pray for the people. Pray for the community. Pray that, God's will would be done. It's the one thing you can do. Pray for our protection and protection of the people. That's the one thing you can do. If you have time and want to volunteer, go online, WW Streets Alive, and just fill out an application and come in. And the other is if you go to the same website and you want to just donate, click on donate. You can go in and choose the response fund and the emergency response fund, and you can help us out with some cash donation.
That's awesome. So any final thoughts before we leave each other? Our church is answering the call to help you guys in this time of
we're
crisis.
getting a great response from the community. The churches are facing their own challenge, but the Christian community itself, I think, is rising up. But we have to keep our eye on the fact that there's 3 stages to this. So right now we're in stage 1, the crisis itself. It's the pit, okay? But then there's going to be recovery from this crisis, which is how we climb out of the pit. And that's going to have another set of challenges and another set of financial needs and resource needs. And then when we get out of that, there's going to be stage 3, which is the new normal. We are not going back to where it was pre-COVID. There are going to be differences economically. As much as the governments are trying, there are going to be failed businesses. There's going to be a need, and so we believe there's going to be an increased need for our kinds of services, and we need to be in a position to manage them. I'd just like to, I've been reminding people, Acts 17:26, Paul is talking to the Romans about the unknown God, but he talks, and he's using the word nations. But really what he's saying was that God knew that we would be alive at this time, so he created us for such a time as this. And he will equip us to be his light, his salt in this darkness at this time as we work through this virus. So we're looking at Streets Alive, we're looking at this as a wave to ride. We're declaring that we're not going to just survive this, we're going to thrive in the midst of it, and we're going to flourish on the other side of it. We serve the living God, and he created us for this, so we're full speed ahead. We're looking to the future. We want to be prepared, and we're looking for anybody that will join us and be ready to carry us through stage 1, 2, and 3, and when we're out the other side. I mean, the greatest thing that we do right now is we still bring hope to those that have none. We still bring the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ every day, and there's more and more people need to hear that message. And while in the midst of the warehouse and everything else we're doing, everything we do brings that message. So thank you for allowing me to come and share.
Well,
today.
Ken, thank you so much for joining us today. It was very enlightening. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Great. Thank you again.
That was Ken Kissick, the co-founder of Streets Alive Mission.